Pain is a 5-year-old child in the corner screaming.
Yes.
It wants all of your attention. But you don't hit a 5-year-old. What you do is you say, I see you. I know you're
Yes.
real.
Yeah.
Can we all sit down on our mats and take a little nap? I promise I'll get to you. But there's other things, other kids in this room.
Welcome back to the Intuitive Voice. And today it is my pleasure to introduce a fascinating guest who I have so enjoyed spending time with. His name is Steve Levitt. Let me tell you a little bit about Steve. Steve was born in Los Angeles, and Steve Levitt moved to New York at 17 years old to attend the Juilliard School in the drama division. After graduation, he had a long, lucrative, but intimately unsatisfying acting career, allowing him to be able to say, I am not a movie star, and I starred in 5 movies to prove it. I love that. Steve moved behind the camera, writing and directing the film Deaf Heaven, which premiered at the Sundance Film Festival. And then for MGM, he wrote the screenplay At First Sight, starring Val Kilmer. He then proceeded to write screenplays for every major studio. And then in 2004, he moved to his mother's country, Argentina, where he wrote about the children of the disappeared during that country's dictatorship. In 2011, Steve returned to the U.S. and got an MFA from Bennington College in Literature. And at the same time, he was busy. He turned toward the Buddha Dharma. He received his teacher certification at Against the Stream, studying with Joanna Hardy, Vinnie Ferraro, and Noah Levine. At Against the Stream, Steve led the LGBTQ Sangha and co-facilitated the teen group, helping teens calm their minds with a major focus on sobriety. Steve is a graduate of the Sati Institute, where he studied Buddhist chaplaincy. So Steve is currently a Buddhist Interfaith Chaplain at Enchanted Sky Hospice in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where he specializes in end-of-life, dementia, and MAID, which is medical aid in dying. And in September 2025, Steve will participate in a 1-year program at the California Institute of Integral Studies in San Francisco, and he'll be training as a psilocybin and plant medicine chaplain. Woo! There's so much juicy content here, Steve. Yay! Welcome. I'm so happy. And today I'm running this solo. This is Martha Arnett. For our listeners, Angela's still on vacation. And I'm so excited to connect with you, Steve, and welcome to our pod.
Oh, well, it's really a pleasure to be here. I'm very excited. And
Yay! Thank you. Steve, I'd love to start with the first question. When you hear the word intuition, what does it mean to you? And we could talk about, especially in the context of your journey from acting to writing to directing and then to chaplaincy, or you could answer that from just a general space. What does it mean to you?
well, in present time, it means honoring a life. I'm 68. A life of listening to my acquired wisdom. Hard school, I call it the school of hard knocks. I wish that I had that knowledge earlier in my life, but I was taught not to listen to that.
Yes.
But right now, I think it means, whether it's acting to writing to chaplaincy to end of life, to just living, to actually listen to what's coming out of me or from inside of me, as opposed to look to the external world for an answer.
Yes.
So it's about honoring that inner voice. And I wish I could say it's sometimes a bit of a taking away process, because I have to take away society or money or my parents or my grandparents or my cellular history and just listen. Just listen. That's what it means.
That is such a beautiful answer. I love that, how you mentioned, and I often work with clients around the unraveling of all of the doing that is and the beingness and all the things that have happened to us, and it's impossible to not have that. And that leads me to the next question, Steve. I'm really curious about when you were young. You said it was not something that was encouraged. Tell me a little bit about. I know you have a fascinating childhood. We've talked a little bit about this, and you always get extra energy around this topic with your parents, and I love to hear it.
my parents were wild. My father died when I was 10. My mother was killed when I was 20. They were both, my mother's an Argentine immigrant. My father's actually the only one who was American born, but he was like born like a week later. I mean, his parents went from Russia to Poland to Panama to Montreal, finally in the United States. So they were immigrants and they were definitely being chased. And that didn't allow them to feel secure. They were always, I saw both my parents always looking over their shoulders, like what's happening outside in the world. Who's chasing us? How are we going to get there? How are we going to have enough money? And I think that I'm going to use the word fear, but maybe that history, that trauma, now we would use the word, didn't allow them to have, or didn't foster in them intuition. They had other ideas, which is achievement, buying things, money, success, careers. So while they were both incredibly successful people, I don't think they were intuitive. I don't think they had the luxury of taking a quiet moment and turn inward and say, what's my soul telling me? What's my inner voice is telling me? They were very much focused on, getting a house, having a mortgage, getting their kids through college, which were all good.
Yes.
That being said, now that I'm saying it, they both didn't play by the rules, which was good, because they both intuitively knew that the rules would eventually betray you, or might eventually betray you. So my mother came to this country. She didn't like the way Latins were treated, so she had blonde hair and blue eyes, and she just went to the movies and studied the way that Katharine Hepburn talked, so she could lose her accent by the time she was 17 and pass. And she knew that her career would be made in an alternative place. So she hid out in Hollywood, and she was a costume designer. She wore men's clothes her entire life. Never, I think I saw her in a dress 3 times. And there was a story where I was embarrassed that my mother wore men's clothes. And they invited her to the PTA, and she was getting ready. And I said, Mom, why can't you dress like everybody else?
Yeah.
And she said, you mean badly?
No.
And my father laughed, and that was the end of that. I never asked her to ever not be herself. So even though that I wouldn't say that they were intuitive people, they knew how to work their lane. Let's just say that. So maybe their wisdom was work your lane. Don't try to be somebody else. Be you. I hope that answers that.
Yeah, that is beautiful, and I love that. Just be you. That was great advice back then. I feel like that's all over everywhere, on every T-shirt slogan everywhere. But back then it wasn't, right? And
No,
what I
it
love
wasn't.
also, what I love what you brought up, Steve, is you bring up the difference between intuition, instinct, survival, foundational needs, right? Like, is listening to our intuition a luxury? When you're escaping places, and you don't have if you think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? You think of the foundational needs are safety, security, food, physical needs. And it is interesting. I mulled over a little bit the difference between instinct and intuition, but not, I've never really thought of it as a luxury. But I think sometimes when we are so pressured for safety and security, and we're in a society that doesn't really honor and respect that. I love that you brought that up. That's a really important thing to talk about. And I'm curious for you. So here you are now. You've been through your career has taken on many chapters. And I'm curious, I would love for you to speak to, so there was the acting, and then there was the writing, and then there was the running these different groups and being trained in all of these really beautiful different ways. And now you're in the chaplaincy. I'm so curious about if you would think how, first of all, when did you start to notice that you were beginning to connect and rely on intuition? And if you can speak to one of those chapters or more, if they stick out for you.
In 1980, my mother was killed in a fire, and the MGM Grand Hotel fire. And I was, and my family fell apart, and the government was coming after me for money, and I didn't know what I was doing, to be honest. I was a kid. And I was smoking about 2 packs of cigarettes a day and sitting in my room, and my aunt said, I heard of a hypnotist, a therapist who's a hypnotist who will hypnotize you to stop smoking. I was like, cool, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and he said, well, what's going on? And I told him the whole story. And about 10 minutes into the life review, he said, are you aware that you're having a nervous breakdown?
Oh.
And I was like, nope. He said,
Yeah.
let's deal with the smoking later. You're having a nervous breakdown.
Okay.
And he was a parapsychologist as well as a psychologist. He was a student of Thelma Moss, the great parapsychologist.
Mm.
And I worked with him once a week for about 25 years.
Oh my gosh,
And,
fabulous.
Off and on, but and he's still a dear friend. And he sort of set me on a spiritual path.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't set me on any particular spiritual path. He just said to live without one is a very, very precarious road to hoe. And so I went through ritual shamanism. I went through metaphysical Christianity, the Course in Miracles, leading to Buddhism. And I think there was some times, I'm a gay man in my 60s, and the AIDS crisis hit us hard, beyond hard.
Yeah.
And I was acting in all these stupid television shows. That's not right. All these goofy television shows and movies.
Yeah.
And it wasn't matching my inner life, which was taking care of all my friends who were dying.
Yes.
So I would go from the studio making these goofball television shows and movies to going to a hospital and spending the night with a friend who was dying, including my partner and at the time. And I said, the intuition was, this isn't matching up.
Yeah.
And then my acting started to suffer because the person I was acting like I wasn't the person I was. So everything was reading a little false.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat down and I wrote a movie, which became Deaf Heaven, which became the career. So all of a sudden, by listening to my this inner voice that said, this is not matching up.
Yes.
This is not what you're supposed to do now.
Yeah.
And so by listening to the inner voice, I was able to find I don't call it a new career, a new venue to do what I was doing creatively. There's a universal thing which says, you take care of the content, and God or the universe or whatever you trust will take care of the form. You take care of the content, your soul.
Yeah.
The form will come. They'll be married to the form. It has to be acting. It has to be writing. It has to be filmmaking. It has to be. So in a funny way, everything that I've done is the same, is an extension of the same process. It's just the form changed.
Oh, I love that.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Totally. I love that so much. And Steve, when you get, so clearly you're in direct communication and your intuitive channel is pretty clear, even though, so you get the intuitive information and then the form takes its form. And how do you receive your intuitive information? Do you hear it? Do you feel it? Do you know it? Do you sense it? Like, how do you get it?
A very good question. Usually it comes around the back door, which
Yeah.
is when I'm doing something that doesn't feel organic or authentic.
Okay.
And
That's
I
great.
go, oh, something's not right. Let me drop
Yes.
back in.
Oh, that's so good.
I say, if I'm the rock spitting across the top of the lake, if I'm not going deep, I
Yeah.
can do it for a while, but then I go, "Oof, this just feels crappy. This just feels
Yes.
phony, So
Yes.
I try to let the rock drop below the surface.
I love that. I love that. And let me tell you why I love that is because
Okay.
for me too, sometimes I have to take action to know what feels right, what feels in alignment, what doesn't feel. It's not, I think, and I love for the pod listeners to hear this. It's not that we get this clear knowing and then we do it and yay, kumbaya, everything's great, right? It's like sometimes it's trial or error. And you go and while I used to a lot with relationships. I remember in my 20s and I would be like, well, let me give this a try, see how it feels. And I would try it and I'd be like, oof, not in alignment, not good, right? But I didn't know that upon the first couple conversations. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing your process because that is really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think back to that idea about taking away as opposed to, I do know that when I was first becoming a chaplain, I used to go armed with wisdom in my notebook. And if they were religious, I had Bibles and scriptures. And I used to, after studying and working very hard to be a chaplain, you try to come in with nothing.
Yes.
So there's an emptying out at the door, which is, I'm not going to fix anything. I'm not
Yes.
going to be a genius. I'm not going to be super intuitive. What I'm going to be is present
That's right.
and see what arises. Can I be secure enough to not be prepared with my big shiny objects? Can I just walk
Yes.
in the room and say, how you doing? Where are we at?
Oh my
What's
gosh.
up?
I love
So
that.
I now teach chaplains and
Yeah.
chaplain students, and I go like this. I know, study and then forget it all.
Yes.
You've learned all the good stuff, put it in your notebook in your head, and just go in and be present and see what happens. And they look at me like, are you crazy? Those people are dying or they're sick or
Yeah.
they're suffering. And I go, they just need you. They don't need a bunch of stuff.
That's exactly right. I love that you said that, Steve. When I was right out of graduate school in my 20s, I was hired as the therapist, the only one, for the adolescent boys in Chicago's largest emergency shelter. So all of the kids age 11 to 21 who had failed, all the boys who had failed foster homes, juvie, everything, kicked out of everywhere, school, everything. They came to us, and then we were supposed to figure out what to do with them. But it was my job. I interviewed each one, and I was doing all their trauma histories, and it was a thing. But I'll tell you, I still have the sticky. I'm looking at it right above my desk right now, and it says to be seen, to be known, and to be understood. All I could do for those kids, because sometimes I would see them one time for an intake. Yeah. Sometimes I would see them for years if it was hard to place them right in the system. But I literally had to do that early on in my career. All those tools I wanted to use so badly. I was so excited to be a therapist, but really all I had to do was be present with them and trust that was healing in some form. And now we know that is the primary mode of healing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yep. It's beautiful. Yeah. So tell me and our listeners a little bit about your chaplaincy and what you're going to be learning, what you've been doing, and how intuition brought you here.
It's interesting. My Sangha, the Buddhist word for community, blew up in 2018 in a Me Too situation. I'm not really... We all know about those, and it's actually not that interesting. But all of a sudden, I found myself without a community, that my Buddhist faith was challenged,
Mhm.
And I had to sort of go back to the original intuition, which is, why did I do this? Why did I become a Buddhist teacher? Was to
Yeah.
help, to alleviate suffering. And
Yes.
a great teacher, Gil Fronsdal, said, well, you should take chaplaincy. And I was like, oh, dude, I am not going to. And I immediately, like everybody else, thought of that weird guy on the television show MASH, the chaplain. And, and what do I do? And I ended up falling madly in love with this 400-year-old thing,
Mm.
which has a religious component for people of faith. So we think
Mhm.
of the Catholic chaplain or the Jewish chaplain. But it's actually, my badge now says spiritual counselor, which helps people because then they don't have to think that I'm going to push God on them, which as a Buddhist, I ain't.
Yeah, totally.
But we're all trained to be interfaith. So most of us are trained to not rely on Judeo-Christian or any of those religions, but to just say, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a physician, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm your spiritual counselor to mirror back what's truly inside of you that you may, because of pain or suffering or trauma, have forgotten. So we're not trying to add anything in. We're actually trying to just say you got this. And I know it doesn't feel like you got this. So I'm going to be here as a mirror so that you can look at yourself, bring stuff out and see what you got.
Yeah.
With a chaplain, almost, we could, tattoo it on the inside of our eyebrows. I can't fix anything. What I can do is listen and help you bring forth your intuition, your wisdom, your inner voice, what you know to be true, and let's work out what might be hiding, especially in illness, especially with trauma,
Yes.
chronic pain. I always say pain is a 5-year-old child in the corner screaming.
Yes.
It wants all of your attention. But you don't hit a 5-year-old. What you do is you say, I see you. I know you're
Yes.
real.
Yeah.
Can we all sit down on our mats and take a little nap? I promise I'll get to you. But there's other things, other kids in this room, including, so what the pain wants to take up all of your time. And I want to pay attention to the pain, but I also want to pay attention to the soul and to the part that
Yeah.
is needing other things.
Yes.
So it's an interesting job to be a chaplain because you're a little bit like an air traffic controller. You see what's coming and you go, oh, well, there's about 10 planes in the air. That one, the pain plan or the trauma one, I'll land you. But I also have 9 other things going on and I'd like to give them some space too.
Yes. Beautiful.
So,
Yeah. Thank you. That is beautiful. Steve,
I
I'm
wish
curious.
that
Yeah. Go ahead.
I
No,
just
go
wish
ahead, please.
everybody who works in a hospital or in a hospice or anything is a chaplain, we all wish that there was a definition we could say
Mm.
that would make people know what we really do.
Yes. Yeah.
Because people think that we're either the guy on MASH or that we're going to stuff some dogma from some religion down your throat, and nothing could be further from the truth.
Further. Yeah. Well, I think after they spend a minute or two with you, they'll get it.
I hope
Because
so.
your presence is really beautiful and open and curious. And yeah,
Thank you.
it is. Yes, yes.
Thank you.
So I'm curious, Steve, with all of this wisdom and through the experience and all the trials and errors of all of life, if you could go back and whisper something to your younger self about trusting your intuition, what would you say to him?
It's going to sound so simple and maybe even a little cheesy, which is you're going to be okay and it's going to work out. So much of my life, I was so terrified that it wouldn't work out, even when I was at the top of any game.
Yeah.
Even when I was lauded and being paid big bucks and everybody was applauding me,
Mm-hmm.
there was such a deep fear that it wouldn't work out. So I wish I could hold that 10-year-old kid or that 20-year-old kid and just say, dude, just get on the ride. It's going to work out. Doesn't mean it's always going to be fun, but it's going to work out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels to me like you've done a lot of ancestral healing. Like you started talking about your parents, right? With all of what they brought and all they needed to endure. And then here you are. And then you just talked about carrying that forward in your younger self. And then I have no doubt that through all of your different journeys and then shamanism and all the different studies and explorations you have done have helped heal that ancestral wound.
Yeah. I love the idea that I don't have to, that I can actually accept it without being traumatized by it.
Yes.
I used to be traumatized by it. And I go, this is history. This happened.
Yep.
My joke is that as a gay man, I'm supposed to love The Wizard of Oz, and I always found it to be really cheesy and stupid.
Oh, that's okay.
And just in the last couple of years, I was like, oh no, I get why it's such a great tale, such a great movie, and why the gays love it. and it's because she got those ruby red slippers on her feet.
Yeah.
And she gets to the end, and the wizard says, girl, you could have just clicked your heels and gone home.
Right.
If that's what you wanted. You could have done that 2 hours ago. And she says, but I wouldn't have been able to meet this one, or see him, or learn this, or have the terrible monkeys and that mean witch. But she went on the journey.
That's right.
So if she had, that first moment when the house falls on that lady's head and she's got the slippers, if she had just clicked him and said, I want to go back to Kansas 3 times and did, there's no life there.
Yeah.
There's no journey. There's no practice. There's no experiences, And I'm not advocating that you're supposed to be in pain all the time to learn everything. Sometimes we learn things just by hanging out with your buddies and goofing off.
That's right.
Or taking a walk.
I love how you said a couple minutes back about you can hear it, and it's not traumatizing anymore. I was just at a conference at Omega, and one of the phrases that she kept saying, and I actually came home and got onto Etsy and ordered a bracelet, like a cheapy bracelet, but it says the phrase, and the phrase is, wear it loosely. Wear it loosely. It just deeply, and this was talking about chronic pain, but it applies to anything, right? Our big T, little T. Like, yes, we're acknowledging it. The way I interpreted it is, for me, like I'm acknowledging that what is going on is actually going on, but it doesn't mean I need to clamp down and define myself and everything and every experience through it. I'm just going to wear it loosely, see it, but not.
Absolutely.
Yeah, isn't that beautiful?
That's beautiful.
That's exactly what you said.
Right. I was taught at the Cancer Center at Cedars-Sinai, which is, if you can gently nudge a patient to be a person who has cancer, not a cancer patient.
Yes.
Which is, or chronic pain or trauma or whatever.
Yes.
This is probably one of the least interesting things about you.
Absolutely.
And yet we give it as this identity. I'm a cancer survivor. I'm a cancer patient. And I go, what else we got?
Yeah.
Because I know you're here and I know you're having radiation and chemo, but what else is going on? What else is in your mind? What else is in your field of vision?
Yes.
Because it'll, the word metta in Buddhism is loving kindness, but to go metta, to go wider. You and I have talked about raising kids and how can you encourage your daughters, in your case, to have a wide vision.
Yes.
To see. This therapist I told you about who saved my life in 1981, I once said something about all this stuff, and he said, I see you're really attracted and drawn to the shiny objects. Which are great. But don't let the shiny objects obscure the emerging light. There's stuff behind it. But if you're only focused on the obvious thing in front of your face, whether it be pain or whatever, not to deny any of it, but don't miss what's behind. And that was an intuitive voice, because the present time voice is, you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not smart enough, you're not rich enough, you're not Jeff Bezos, you're not Steven Spielberg. That voice,
Yes.
good voice, got it,
Sure.
but it obscured my own voice.
Yes.
Obscured my other voices. So
how did you get to that lower voice? How did you, your intuitive voice? Yeah. How did you access that?
you ask good questions, Martha.
Thank you. I know these answers will be really helpful to folks listening.
There was a teacher of mine who I once said, I don't know if I have what it takes to, this was at Juilliard when it was such a crazy place. I don't know if I have what it takes to make it. And she said, I'll make you two promises. Somewhere inside of you, there's somebody who knows like they know, like they know, like they know.
Yes. Love that.
But that person was not operating, because I was 17 and I was young and I was scared. And she always said, do you know like you know, like you know, like you know? And I was like, sometimes. And then she said, I'll make you a promise. If you give it your all, you will either succeed or you will fail miserably. But I promise you, the failure will show you the next step. But if you do it halfway, if you're in the middle, you're not really committed because you're afraid of making the mistake, you will never get that gift of knowing what you're supposed to do next. Which was something really hard for a 17-year-old to hear. It took about 40 more years to actually integrate it. But what she said stuck in my head for 40 years,
Oh my God, that is so good.
Yeah, it was really important.
Thank you.
I hope she's still on the planet. She was a great teacher.
Sounds like it. Wow.
Yeah.
So Steve, I love to end, Ange and I love to end with a question. What is one intuitive nudge or idea that you're currently listening to inside yourself, even if you don't know where it is leading you yet?
So maybe the childhood stuff, the losing my parents, the being on a roller coaster as a career of no matter how, being an actor and then a writer and then a director, we're always, no matter how good you were, the system sort of pulls the rug out from under you the next day. I was always looking for security. Make some money, buy a house, find a husband, plant some roots. Just recently, in full disclosure, I did an ayahuasca journey. And one of the things that I found fascinating was that in my mind, in my soul, I have a thought. I really need to, I'm making a hypothetical, go on a 6-month travel by myself or go on the Camino or whatever.
Yes.
Very quickly, another voice will come in and say, oh, you don't really need to do that. And what Mother Ayahuasca, and I'm one of the plant medicines, but what she does is she suspends that second thought. She doesn't deny it. She just holds it back for an hour or two so that you can actually consider the question before you fix it.
Oh, wow.
It honors the question.
Honors the question.
So the question comes up and says, okay, so right now we have a beautiful home. I like my job. We like our town. I'm 68. There's also a thought that makes me go, what would it be like to get a little small, and maybe go on a pilgrimage by myself or with my partner for a few months and walk the world. And I've been just holding it in thought. I'm not acting on it today. But this idea that we have to fix, again, the chaplain, I can't fix everything.
Yeah.
So can I just look at the question without answering it right away? You
I
know?
love that.
And I
Yes.
think that in our world now, everyone's got an opinion about everything. And then in politics, everyone's got an opinion. And
Yeah.
in chaplaincy, we say, but I say it in life, I don't know is a viable answer.
Yes.
I don't know yet.
That's right.
People think it's weak to say, I don't know. But I actually think it's the strongest position to say, oh, I have to think about that. I'm not sure. I don't know.
That's right.
I'll get back to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? But right
Yes.
now, I just want to hold it and go, wow, I don't know. Wouldn't that be interesting? I don't know.
Yes, yes. Curiosity is such a powerful place,
Listen,
space to be. Yeah.
It's so funny because when you're dealing with people at the end of their life,
Yeah.
they say, I failed, I'm miserable, I have regrets. And I go, okay. And is there anything that might be a surprise or anything that has to do with wonder? You're dying tomorrow, so we got some time for 24 hours. Is there anything you wonder about? Has there been any surprises coming to the end of this life? And you'd be amazed at what people say.
Oh my gosh.
People say,
Can you? Yeah. What do they say?
They never say, I wish I had made more money. They usually say,
That's true.
I wish I had told my loved ones I loved them more.
Mm.
I was afraid that I would be seen needy, or I wished I had not been such a good soldier to the world, such a good student. I wish I had been a little more irreverent. I wish, and I always go, well, you got another 100 lifetimes coming, so, you know.
I know, right? You have plenty
try
of
it there.
time.
Yeah, I got plenty of time.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating what comes out of the mouths of people who are leaving this body.
I bet.
And it's usually like, oh, I could have played it a little more loose. I didn't have to be such a good student.
That's right. I love that.
You know?
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That is a brilliant spot to end. Thank you for all of this gorgeous wisdom and insight. Oh, I'm so grateful for you, Steve. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to listening more to the intuitive voice. And I'll tell you one little story quickly.
Please, yes.
I was in a 10-day silent meditation, which is very, weird. And I had like hours of meditation, and I saw myself as an office building. And every floor had a job. There was the publicity floor. There was the bluster floor. There was the spiritual floor. There was the intuitive floor.
Wow.
And all of them were talking. And I had a lot of meditation time, and I was like, well, why don't I just go from floor to floor and see what everybody has to say? And I had to tell the bluster floor and the insecurity floor, calm down, you guys. I got you. I'll be up soon. But I'm going to go hang out with this floor. And the inner voice of the intuition floor was the quietest one. So it wasn't shouting and screaming for my attention. So when I told the other floors to calm down, I could go to this floor, and everybody was rather relaxed who worked there in that office. And they were like, how we doing? What's up?
Love
It was
that.
the nicest place to live.
Yes.
But it wasn't the screaming one. It wasn't the shiny object one. And I had to learn to go, oh, I'm going to go hang out over there for a minute.
I love that. That is a great, it's a metaphor for us. It was a visual for you, right? But I love that it is, I talk about stories where on the surface things are, whether they're anxious or scary or whatever it is. And then when you can learn and I really want to simplify this for folks, but when you can learn just to sort of tap in, whether you can be walking, you don't have to be sitting on a pillow smelling incense, right? You can do this when you're walking. A lot of times it happens in the shower or when you're driving. It's when your mind is engaged in one thing usually. Often things will drop in, and it's that quieter, whether it's an inner voice that you hear. So I hear an intuitive voice, and people get just an intuitive knowing. It's something that comes in that just alerts you and informs you of your next right step or wrong step, right? Or, or telling you you've got to pivot or whatever it is. But I love that. Thank you for reminding all of us that it is that quieter floor. It is that quieter space.
It is a quieter floor.
It is. Yeah, I love that. Steve, this has been so great. I am so grateful for this time. Thank you so very much. And we will see you soon. Take good care, everyone. Bye.
Hey, friends, you thought we were gone, but we're back. I'm glad you stayed.
If you like what you heard, click those 5 stars. And if you really like what you heard, please write us a review.
And share with your friends.
Thanks.